Welcome back to the Follow Project. I'm Pastor Chris Solak. We have been talking about the fear of God for the last few weeks, and we're continuing today. We're in a time of great love of self, the end times that Jesus actually spoke about. Not only do we see this permeating the church, but we also see it even within uh, AI and other things. These are technologies that are now we're trying to upload human consciousness and take it to an artificial level, right? That we're actually starting to remove the need for biological relationship, and we're now integrating technology, and that technology is our attempt to become gods, right? And I know that some people are overreacting, and there are a lot of people overreacting to chat GPT and AI in its early infancy states, yet we can see where it's going. And I think the one dangerous aspect is that we start to become reliant on AI's communication and stop, for those of us who have communication with God, that it would somehow hamper us from going to Him first. And that in itself is one of the things that are indicative of the end, where people will become such lovers of self that even people within the world who are looking to the next great move in religion have said that the next great religion of the world is going to come out of uh, the Silicon Valley, and that it will be technology and AI based. I mean, we live in wild times, biblical times. The great book of Revelation, it has painted a picture for us that is every day becoming more clear with the world that we are finding ourselves in. And so it speaks to this idea that as we become more convinced as a global group of people in the advancement of mankind, and that we drink that Kool-Aid, if you will, that there's a greater and greater removal of the need for God. I've traveled the globe, and I've shared that many times. And when I go to rural places in Africa, or say even Pakistan, or even though I wouldn't consider uh, the Philippines rural just because of how westernized it is, but just the amount of people and the amount of poverty that exists in that nation, like there's great need. And it's their need for God for the day-to-day things that they live very differently than people in, say, Europe or Japan, or the first world being Canada, America, even Mexico. They live differently. And I know that there are definitely parts of Mexico that are rural and that are not part of that first world experience. But I just think that it's important that, like, there is this consciousness that's saying we don't need God anymore. We are able to actually remove God, remove a need for God, that we won't need healing in the next few generations, because there are science and technology companies that are right now creating children that are running simulations over genetic codes that they're going to remove hereditary patterns for virus and disease and generational forms of sickness and degeneration, and that they're actually going to start to re-engineer life in such a way that we're going to come to this point of perfect humanity. How can there ever be anything perfect within a fallen reality? This is just, again, more evidence for the lack of fear for God that exists within our world, and most importantly, within our church. And so I just want to quickly read a definition from the Christian and Judaistic perspective, that the fear of God generally refers to a deep sense of respect, awe, and reverence for God rather than a feeling of terror. It involves acknowledging God's power, authority, and holiness, and living one's life in accordance with His will and teachings. This fear is often associated with humility, obedience, and a desire to please God. The thing is that we are teaching now just to hold audiences within a lot of the first world church, is that you can live your life however you want to, and that God will come alongside you, and He's going to be the salt within the flavor palette of life for you. He's going to give your life flavor. He's going to bless whatever it is you do. You just keep being the captain of your own ship. Yet this is a false philosophy. It is a humanistic one. It is a satanic, Luciferian philosophy that is meant to keep you on a path separated from God with no recognition of the authority, the power, nor the creative dominion of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Proverbs 19:21 through 23 says this, many plans are in man's heart, but the Lord's decree will prevail. What is desirable in a man is his fidelity. Better to be a poor man than a liar. The fear of the Lord leads to life, and one will sleep at night without danger. Once again, Solomon hitting the nail on the head that if we put the Lord's plans, the Lord's purpose, whether we understand it or not, whether we're fully aware of everything that God's wanting to do with us, that we do what he asks because of who he is. That he is holy, that he is righteous, that he is good, that he is love, that he is truth. That anything that we would follow outside of him would be false. And you go, well, that doesn't necessarily make sense, Pastor, because, say God didn't tell me to go get a car dealership, but I went ahead and got a car dealership and I became the number one salesman in my state. I became the number one car dealership within my state, within my region. And I became immensely wealthy and I gave lots and lots and lots of money to the poor. I gave money to my church. I build churches. I plant churches. I went on mission trips and I went all over around the world fueled on this, and God never told me to do it. Well, then I think you would have to ask the Lord, you're living a sanctified life? And the answer to that would be no. And he said, but look at all the good I produced. And he said, but that wasn't my plan for you. It isn't about your will, it's about his will. And this is, I'm going to be honest, as a follower of Jesus Christ, the truth sometimes, even though inevitable, is on delay. We talk about delaying gratification, but sometimes it's delaying realization. The realization of the promise, the realization of the truth, because there is such a strength within this reality that is perpetrating the lie, that you're faced with the ongoing reality that the lie is more palatable for most people in this place than the truth. And then when you're living in the truth, you start to feel like you're losing your mind because nobody seems to get it. And I just want to speak to those out there who hear what I'm saying, that have had to go through this, or maybe you're continuing to go through this. Hold your ground. Don't let go. You feel like you're losing your mind, your grip on reality, but sometimes that's what it means to die to this world, to pick up your cross, and to follow Jesus. My point, the fear of God is life-giving, not wealth-yielding, but everything happens according to his will. Real quick, this is not time for the religious part of the audience to say that, oh, yeah, nothing happened. Well, it must have been God's will. I want to speak to the fact that God's will is always conditional upon the obedience of his people. And when we are disobedient or we don't even enter into his will, when we go off, we go build a car dealership when God tells us not to, that there is collateral damage because there were people based on what he desired you to do that you were supposed to impact. And you go, but look at all the other people I impacted. Yeah. I never had a dream for you to impact those people. I wanted you to impact these people. And it's not about what you thought was a good idea. It's what I wanted to do that was most important. You don't know the eternal plan I had for these other people, but I just needed you to listen, act, and obey. I needed you to come into agreement with my will from a place of sanctification. And so I want you to think about this, that are you living a sanctified life or a justified one? Are you, are you, are you telling yourself that someday when you come before the feet of Jesus in judgment, that you can justify your actions and decisions because of what you did with what came out of what was extracted or given or made? Because God has a plan and a purpose. And if you're not hearing it from Him, it's not His plan, His will, or His purpose. Food for thought. Until next time, be blessed.